Well, should we go ahead and get started?
Sure, we can go ahead and get started. My name is Daniel B. Smith, and this is not the regular meeting of the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, but our January retreat. It is a little bit past 3:00. We do not currently have a quorum, but we'll see if anybody else shows up. But if we don't have a quorum, we'll just focus on the discussion aspect of this meeting. This meeting is 2 hours. Should be a little bit longer than a normal one, and should be a little bit more free form. So keep that in mind. But I will still start things off with the roll call. So if you could say hello or hi or anything when I call your name, that would be great. Starting with Marlo. I did not see Marlo. And Denise. And then Mary.
I'm here. I'm going to be in and out because I'm at the theater and we have a show this afternoon. So,
all right, understood. Thanks for being here. And then we have Dina.
I'm here.
And Marciana.
Present.
And then Rebecca, who does not appear to have logged on yet. And then Jill, who we have not seen, and Tim, who we have not seen. I will go ahead and start things off by saying that I know that Denise was not able to follow up with a subcommittee meeting. We're trying to plan a subcommittee meeting a while back, and she wasn't able to attend that. She's had some health issues, and because of that, she's had to back away a little bit. And she did let me know that because those health issues are continuing, she's just going to step off the commission entirely. I let her know that if that resolves, she's always welcome to resume her term, or actually, I don't know specifically how that worked, but that she'd be welcome back. But I did want to convey that. So she's the only absence that I was expecting. I knew that she wasn't feeling up to making it tonight.
Did a notice of this meeting go out? Because I did not get one.
Oh,
I did. I sent one on Friday. It was later than normal.
I didn't get it either. Isn't that odd? Yeah, I was almost going to contact you, but since we had that conversation a couple of weeks ago, I knew it was today, and I saw online the location, but it didn't come to me either. So
then I'm wondering if it just didn't go through.
I definitely did receive the notice you sent.
You did?
I did.
I got it through the regular city newsletter, but not a notice from this group.
Yeah, that is bizarre. I'll double check on that, and perhaps that's part of why we have a smaller crew today.
Which isn't necessarily the worst thing. We do have an agenda for today, which I will try and follow. But at the same time, this is meant to be more of a discussion of some broader issues and challenges and opportunities and things like that. We do, as always, have an opportunity for public comment, though. So if there's anybody here who I haven't noticed who's interested in giving public comment, please let us know.
Nobody on Zoom.
But if not, we can move on to new business and generally just kind of discussing and reviewing some of the stuff from this past year and some of the stuff that we want to try and tackle. First up on the new business, however, is electing officers, which without a quorum is not actually something we would be able to. But I will point out that in addition to electing chairs, secretary, vice chair, I don't know if we've ever had a secretary position specifically.
It says in
the bylaws
that we have a secretary, but I don't think
it's ever actually been
yeah, I mean, we can talk about roles if that's something that we need to look at, but I feel like you guys have been operating just fine with chair and vice.
I think Jill was the secretary. Jordan was secretary.
Okay.
Oh, you're so right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always been a secretary.
Okay. Yeah. I need to read up a little bit more on what secretary duties are. And I did not overlap with Jordan at all.
Yeah. And considering the lack of a quorum tonight, I think we can discuss some of these things in abstract and decide kind of how we might want to proceed, and then actually hammer out the work at another time. I will mention, though, that because Denise is having to step away, Denise was our representative on the TGT advisory board.
Yes.
So we would also need somebody else who would be interested in filling that position. So things to consider. But yeah, as I said, we can, unless somebody else shows up, we can't actually nail these things down. So do we want to just move on to the budget review and kind of pull out the budget and take a look at that? And, we've talked through the budget a number of meetings previously, but I think looking at it again, might be some new
Yeah.
wrinkles or.
I don't have it as of tonight. It's not changed. I have been working through the Q1 budget adjustment with Jeremy in finance, and it's all ready to go. It's all good. He has it. I emailed him on Friday, and he's just waiting for some details from MSO, and then it's going to go through. So we have every reason to believe that it's moving, but I was hoping that we would have some answers today. That was my goal. But there's something holding it up in MSO, but he told me, it's just one more thing and then he's going to submit it. And that's my update there. I've been pushing this along since the fall, and as soon as I have information, I will let you guys know, as that will definitely give us something to touch base on. I know that something that we really wanted to do at this point was figure out where we wanted those extra funds to go. And I don't have the numbers currently yet, but it should be happening very soon. Yeah, and I'd be happy to take questions on it. It's not a process that I'm uber familiar with, but I can always ask questions. But yeah, it's still happening, guys. I promise.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question just on it, and it's sort of peripheral budget. So we did the call for community arts grants based on what we thought the projected budget was going to be, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So where are we in that process right now? Are those grants under review? Are they shelved? Are they on hold? Where are we with that?
Yeah, I would say they're shelved for now. I haven't made any progress on. The applicants know that we are in the process of review. That's where they stand with us. I was hoping to have a little bit more information by this time regarding the budget. So I definitely think that they're shelved for now. I don't like that word, but
until when though? This
Jeremy made it sound like next week.
Okay.
And
so it's not like months away.
No, he's got his budget, Q1 budget, ready to go, whatever stage in the process that is. I'm not sure. But he was waiting on some details from MSO, and yeah, so it should be coming. That's what I've been told. And I'm as anxious as you are, I promise. And I'll let you know. Okay. I appreciate that, Abby. Yeah.
I just didn't know if it meant that maybe we weren't going to get all that funding, or just, kind of where we were.
Yeah, no, I have every reason to believe that it's going smoothly. Nobody's told me otherwise. So.
Okay. I'm going to need to step away for about 10 minutes for intermission here, and then I'll be back.
Sure.
Thank you.
So some of the stuff that is on the agenda is relatively important, like basic stuff. So I wonder if just floating this out there before we even start diving into some other topics, I think it'll be good to discuss stuff, especially just in a less formal way than we normally do. Normally things are pretty structured, but I do wonder if we want to consider the possibility that we'll kick some of the more official stuff over to February. The February meeting, we can. Or I wonder what you think, or whether we should go ahead and start trying to. I mean, the only other option would be to plan for like a special meeting or something.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about this too, because we have some documents that I would like to have approved by the commission before they go out, and that's mostly to do with Phoenix call for artists, like call for applicants, and that. They were going to look through the materials and then come back at the thing and we could formally approve. But since we don't have a quorum, that can't happen necessarily. I mean, since we started this so much earlier, I mean, like 3 months earlier than normal, I don't see there being like a crazy push to get this done in the next month. That's my feelings, but this is also my first time, so
that is true. It gives us more breathing room. So if we need to do election stuff and any other specific things that require quorum. I think doing them in February would probably be fine.
I think elections, again, my first time, elections, I think are definitely important, but the January meeting, to my understanding, has been a time to spend some time with people who are coming off of the board. And other than Denise, I don't think any of us any of you guys are coming off. Jill was appointed by the mayor to continue. So that's like the only major change. And that's not even a major change because she was, hoping to continue to serve. And so nobody's coming off. So I think this meeting, it doesn't need to serve that purpose in the same way. And I'll definitely chat with Porter about, doing elections on a regular meeting night, just making sure everything is good to go.
And with some of the stuff, as far as like making everybody on the commission aware that that we are going to need to select a new TGT advisory board liaison, I think that's something we could maybe have a hefty follow-up email following this meeting, and that it contains some of that information for folks. So
one thing,
definitely.
This is Dina Amont. So we have our meeting next month, I believe is pretty early, right? It's early in the month. So it's not like we have a really long lag time to wait. So, so the timing seems to be.
It's true. We really only have like 2 weeks until the next meeting, which is
soon.
March, the February and March ones are both the 8th because we have an early start.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the date, but I remembered it was really early. So, and then if I guess I could look here, but somewhere on here, but we still have, so with Denise coming off, don't we still have, then we have 2 openings then, 2 vacant positions then?
Right.
Okay.
So a question, Daniel. You said Jill was needing to come off, but you invited her back.
Oh, Jill came onto the board to finish out somebody's term, and then we were waiting to see whether or not she would be reappointed. To the board, which she has been.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So,
and then Denise was having some concerns, and she is back for all intents and purposes. She is resigning from the commission. I think there is possibility that down the road, I told her, she actually, is interested in participating and would potentially like to again someday, but there's not, any sort of specific time. You can excuse her. I believe it's 4 or 5 months. Give her 4 or 5 meetings, excused absence, if you think that she might recover. So then we're not going back. A mayor appoints somebody for place, and then she's waiting years again.
The language that Denise used made it seem pretty much like she wanted to just like call it, but I'll float that to her and let her know that
we can excuse her for a while.
Yeah.
Because I have to look at the bylaws again, but that is in there. So you could say, hey, just take 4 months off, 5 months. Get you still hopefully healthy again.
And I think there's a section on here, new commissioner brainstorm. Yeah. By that you mean commissioners for this. For
this. Yeah. I didn't know if you guys were like, oh, I know this person that would be really great on this. And I know we have to go through the process of the mayor appointing, but we can make recommendations to the mayor. So
do we want to, since we're already talking about kind of commissioners and seats on the commission, do we want to just go ahead and talk about that a little bit? I mean, I don't know if anybody, it feels a little bit weird for me to be like calling out specific people in the community who I think are great and who would be a great addition to the commission without having already talked to them. But I definitely there are definitely some people in the community who I know of, and I've maybe reached out to them before, and they either didn't respond or gave sort of a mixed answer. But I don't know if you two have people, friends or people in the community that you're fans of.
I did, but I don't think any of them panned out. I'm going to check my notes from a few months ago when we had an opening before. But I don't think any of them panned out. Although with the information about Denise now, I wonder if maybe does anyone know if Liz Kowalczyk has ever been on the Arts Commission before?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can definitely find that out. Yeah.
So just off the top of my head, since you said that Denise was leaving, that just made me think of another professor at KU in art education who just retired like a couple of minutes ago. So, like literally like in December. So she might be a possibility.
Definitely.
And I have not ever reached out to her. So
That is a good idea. I also am kind of curious. I might do this myself, or we could do it as a group and discuss it. I feel like it would be interesting in general to kind of have. I mean, there's some committees and boards who have a very specific list of organizations who they have appointees from, and we don't have that. You know, there's no seats on this body that have to be filled by anybody in specific, and I don't know if we should move to having that. I don't think that's necessarily an idea I like, but I do think it's worth kind of looking at the community and looking at who some of the bigger players are, especially with these issues. And so like having, like as you said, like art education person from KU, that does make sense. And obviously, you know, Mary will come back from intermission. Actually, we have someone from Theater Lawrence and Marlowe's the Art Center. So those seem like kind of obvious pools to pull from. And I feel like it could be a good idea to sort of come up with a general, like, not a required list, but a wish list. And so if at any point Marlowe left, you know, this, you know, was not on the Cultural Arts Commission, we would then say we should probably have somebody else from the Art Center to kind of fill that role. Not that those institutions necessarily, like, you know, deserve to have a seat at all times, but they are a big enough player in the community that I think we could have a little wish list, and that might help us in that brainstorming process a little bit.
Maybe even broaden that idea to be like someone from an arts, or maybe two members from arts organizations in town. It could be the Art Center, it could be Theater Lawrence, it could be Van Gogh, it could be anyone, you know, that we should have some representation from some, you know, nonprofit arts organization in town, and then maybe one from higher education. So one from like maybe public schools or something like that.
Yeah.
I kind of switched in the middle on you here, but and I had on like the list when I was reaching out, and I don't have a date on this piece of paper, but you know, maybe someone from it was from the last retreat actually. From art related businesses. I mean, do we have someone from, do we have any representation there? I don't think we do.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
You know, so, you know, I was thinking, you know, the folks at Wonder Fair or something like that. But I think I did reach out to all of those people at the time, and, you know, I can try again though.
Even the folks from Wonder Fair who reached out, and they, I feel like they love doing stuff like this. That's I think that makes a lot of sense, especially, and not to, at some point during this meeting, I might talk about the committee that I'm on.
Yes.
A little bit. I've already brought it up at least once. But one of the things we did in our first meeting of the committee, which happened, I think it was this past week, was kind of go through all of the different boards and commissions and say which of the city's strategic outcome areas we felt like they aligned with. And for me, I feel like talking about the Cultural Arts Commission, I like the unmistakable identity component of it is like pretty obvious. It's like kind of a given, but in talking and being on this body, and especially having conversations with like Marlowe, who is really interested in seeing some increase in how much revenue is brought to the community through arts projects. Like I really think that now, and especially going forward, I think that the prosperity and economic security component of the strategic plan is what we're going to start to like feel like is more and more our like secondary outcome area. And so I think having that arts, someone from a business like Wonder Fair, or you know, somebody who is really seeing how the arts is positively impacting the economy in Lawrence makes a lot of sense. Not just being all nonprofit folks.
Yeah, there could be some other businesses too. So would it be appropriate then to sort of reach out again to some people?
I was just thinking that too. Like, I'm not sure if we can do recruitment necessarily. So I will double check and make sure that I know clearly what we're allowed to do. I know we can make recommendations, but that's all I know, like in my working memory right now.
When you say we, do you mean we as a body or are speaking on part of the city?
You as a body, I think you have more freedom in this regard. But again, I don't want to speak before I actually really dive into it. But yeah, so you'll get an email with lots of answers.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you would consider it recruitment, but the person who suggested that I apply was someone who was on the committee before. So, I mean,
I think that's fairly custom.
I think that's
Oh, okay. So maybe I misunderstood what you were saying. So we
would be, hey, we really want to see somebody.
Yeah.
Potentially, I think what you're saying, go down the Wonder Fair. Do you have a representative you really want a member from this business on the board? That might also be, is that fair and equitable too? I look at it from a legal standpoint. But if you have recommendations of friends that, in the arts community go, you'd be really good on the board. That happens all the time.
Okay. That's okay. So like informal, I'm just, I mean, that should be fine.
Yeah.
Right? Just to informally reach out to people. That's,
I think that's fairly common. Yeah.
I think it's incredibly common.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that we wouldn't need permission to do that, would we? Or
no.
Okay.
You had mentioned you want to know if Liz, I can't remember her last name, but I went back just a second ago. There was no Liz on any of our boards since 2013 in the past. Not to say that even a past board member can't come back too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, good to know. And I think, if it would be helpful to have sort of an elevator speech or a something to be able to hand someone that's not necessarily about come and be part of our board, but like, what is the Cultural Arts Commission? What do we do? Just kind of an info sheet. That's something that I can put together that might be helpful, I think, for sitting members of the commission, but also potentially for using for that.
I think that seems great. And I think that, speaking again of the committee, I feel like one of the things that's going to come out of that is some standard practices. And like knowing that now the city has 47-ish committees and boards, some of which aren't technically, some of which are joint city county and some of which are task forces and other stuff, but knowing that there's that many of those different bodies and that each of them is comprised of probably around maybe on average 5 to 9 people, that's just a really large number of people that the city needs to volunteer on what is essentially probably a monthly or for some of them quarterly basis, and knowing that those people are volunteers. Having done volunteer recruitment and management in the past, it seems like more of an attempt to get the word out that these like volunteer leadership opportunities exist, and do some of that stuff makes a lot of sense. So I wouldn't be surprised if, we can start doing it now and kind of, blaze that trail, but I wouldn't be surprised if after the committee is done meeting, we have a pretty comprehensive basic plan that all of the boards and committees should have some of this outreach material, because otherwise the pool of people that you're recruiting from dries up pretty quick as far as folks who already have their finger on the pulse and are looking for these afternoon Sunday at 3:00 meeting opportunities. Not necessarily everybody who's dying to sit around a table for hours on their weekend.
I'll use Parks and Recreation, for example. Back to equity and diversity of, you have a focus of, and I'll go back to some boards, more middle-aged to senior men. Now our composition is pretty blended men to women, but are they focused on everybody loves the Lawrence Loop, but are we missing a demographic of the parent with the kids and the seniors and doing, we need to be cautious there, plus just the diversity of the makeup that is representative of the community we live in. And I know the commissioners have really been looking at the diversity of the community we live in and trying to get that more diverse.
Yeah. And for us, I've had conversations with former chairs and, former members, and we are always pretty cognizant of that. And especially when it comes to demographics, like age wise, We've had a lot of really great younger members on this commission, and younger folks just really struggle to make some of the meeting times work and the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those folks have erratic work schedules.
Mhm.
I'm 9 to 5. Not everybody has that.
Mhm.
So I think as we've lost people recently, the average age of the board has skewed up, and I think that's probably generally common to lose the younger folks quicker. But it is definitely something to we can try and at least, not necessarily succeed, but we can try and counteract.
Mhm.
So that can also be on our wish list,
Mhm.
can be a different category, just because I do think that there's a lot of young folks who are very active in the arts, but not necessarily in as stable positions. And I think that's one of the unique challenges we have as a group, is that, we're commissioning and interacting with a lot of folks who by nature, their jobs are very, and their income levels and everything are very volatile, because there's a lot of jobs in the arts which are more commission based or project based and things like that. They might end up traveling more. So I think that group who we're really trying to engage with, a lot of them have more erratic lifestyles than most people. So
maybe families. I know that young kids, they just don't have the time to volunteer.
Yeah.
So you get the older demographic.
And Dina, I just wanted to say, thinking about it's definitely worth it to go back to people you've already asked, especially with people that work at specific agencies and businesses and stuff, because they have turnover in their staff, and you never know, there might be somebody there now that's really into it. I mean, yeah.
Well, I've worked with kids long enough to know that you have to repeat yourself a lot.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll revisit some of the folks that I spoke to before.
And sometimes, you have to hear it a bunch of times to really think about, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
I do think having a little introductory thing would be great. And especially I think something that spells out specifically what is not only what is required of somebody to serve on the commission, but also what isn't required. Because I feel like a lot of people, especially younger people, feel like, that serving on a municipal board is something that you need some sort of credentials or some sort of degree to do. And the reality is we could have a high schooler on this commission. And
actually, that's a terrific idea.
I don't think most I don't think most high schoolers realize that they could do this. They could sit here and give as much input as any of us and have that sort of.
See, I did that in 82. I was on the Parks and Rec board with Fred Victor as a high school senior or junior. And so they had an honorary position to all the boards and commissions back there, at least to the boards. And so that I thought was fascinating. And I really think that's a neat idea to get that age, that demographic engaged in community and government. And go ahead. Oh, we just lost Mary again.
So I think
maybe that's something, Daniel, you can carry with your committee meetings.
Yeah.
Mary's going to jump in because I'm doing it back and forth. Sorry.
Go for it.
Okay. I'm going to dissent here a little bit. What a surprise. I think that with this commission, as long as we do not have trained arts people as our liaisons and on the Parks and Recreation as part of the staff of the Parks and Recreation, that it is extraordinarily important that you have people on this commission who know something about arts, and you don't just bring Joe Blow off the street and put him on the commission.
Sure. Yeah, I do see where you're coming from. That the level of expertise on the commission is crucial, and I definitely rely on other folks on the commission who know more about specific stuff than I do. So,
Mary, I totally agree with you. But when I may be reacting to the student idea, but when that idea came up, I immediately thought of some super active art students who are involved in things like Hang 12 at the Art Center and the high school, preparation program that they have there to go to art school in the future, who are real like go-getters. So I agree with what you're saying, Mary, but I do think that perspective, a younger person's perspective could be really valuable, but not just anyone, but somebody who is, in the arts at high school level, but who's going to pursue art and who has connections in the community by doing art at, say, the art center. And, I think there could be some value there.
I think there are some superb high school students. However, you are not having your high school students teach the classes there, are you?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So I think somewhere along the line, there has to be somebody who is cognizant of national trends, who knows what grant opportunities are available, who knows what professional artists are available for public art. I mean, you can't expect everybody to know all those things. So somewhere there has to be a well of expertise to draw on.
Agreed.
Yeah, the honorary on the high school program when we did it was honorary and it increased. It was just somebody that visited the meeting. So it's like having a person from the general public.
Right. But
well, I think that from the reality is that it's going to be a while before we get into high schoolers. I mean, I don't know. It's just a nice thing to kind of open up who are making the service potential aware, who just trying to make sure that those people in the community are even aware that applying to a city level board is possible. Is the first step there, and then who knows if they're even gonna apply. But I think right now a lot of those folks just don't think that it's even really a possibility in there, which I think is a disservice for all of the city boards. Even though I do agree that like expert level participation is super important. So,
to Mary's point, code enforcement boards, you really need to know the building code. So they just can't pick up somebody that off the street. So there's a level of expertise, and I'm not sure what's in their charter for the PDS board that deals with that. So had a few discussions with Jeff Creek on that, but yeah, there are specialized boards and commissions that do require a level of training and background.
Yeah, I think with our vacancies, this does leave this board in a unique and kind of fun opportunity to do some brainstorming and say, wouldn't it be great to have the input of somebody from this organization or somebody from this part at KU, and like to have that, to have a wish list, I think is smart at this point. And yeah, to reach people that don't know that this is an opportunity, to reach people that, have this expertise and would love to be influential in what happens here. I think there's more people with knowledge than we think. So yeah, we're not doing elections now, and we're not actually, this is an opportunity for you guys to really think as you're moving forward in the next several months, and keep this in the back of your mind. And as you have these moments where you're like, oh, that person is great, we can develop something to reach out to that person. And I'll be supportive in the ways that I can.
How many vacancies are there on the board right now on this one?
As of Denise stepping down, it's 3.
Oh, it's 3. Okay. I thought.
Is that true? I think it would be 2 with Jill's reappointment. Is that correct? Let me see.
We had Jordan, and we also, yeah, maybe it's just 2, and I think somebody twice.
Yeah, I think it is 2.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
Wasn't it Jordan and James and somebody else who resigned?
Jordan and James both departed, not at the same time. I think James left first, and then I believe Jill,
So that would be 3 then, wouldn't it?
I
think Mary's right. It is 3. Jordan stepped down and James was off before I even started.
yeah.
And so we had a vacancy with James at moving, I believe.
Okay.
And then Jordan stepped off this fall. And so now with Denise, it's 3.
I'm looking at the list right here though. And,
Because
3, 4, 5, 6.
whose seat did Jill take?
So
Maybe she took James.
I think there's only 2. So
No,
Jordan,
there was an empty vacancy before Jill came on too.
but I'm the list of members is right on the website, right? So, and there are 10 people listed, but 2 of them are not on. It's Jordan, who's not on, Jill, Dina, Mary, Daniel, Marlo, Rebecca, Marciana, Tim, and then Denise and Jordan would be the vacancies. So
Okay.
I think that's 8
Yeah, I'm not
people who are
sure.
still on. Jill, Dina, Mary, Daniel, Marlo, Rebecca, Marciana, Tim. That's 8. And then it's still listed with Jordan and Denise here. So I think those would be the 2 vacancies.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Just 2.
I showed yourself, Mary, and Daniel needing to be renewed mid-year. And so,
I'm January, I think.
okay, I'm just looking at 23. Okay, they just didn't put the bar out far enough than the 24.
And one of the things that I was curious about that I brought up at the committee meeting, which
I'm not.
it was just I was curious on average for all of the committees and boards the city has. I was curious what the average vacancy rate is, which I don't know if anybody actually knows that off the top of their head. But I asked at that meeting. I think someone with the city said there is going to put together some of the statistics because I do wonder. And I mean, I only have experience with a couple boards and commissions, but I if retain board members and filling seats is something that is an ongoing issue. I'm curious if over time maybe it's changed. So I don't know if any of the staff have experience with that.
I think we might be down 1 board member on Parks and Rec. I think we're still down 1, but ours has stayed pretty full. But we also, when we upgraded the charters, we did that for all the boards. And that was through the legal office. I want to say in 18 or 19. And we went from the commission took our board from 5 to 9 members, and I can't remember if they did on others. Some of what you're working on is definitely the volunteer time, but it's also the staff time.
Yeah.
So I'm also in the middle of a board retreat with Explore Lawrence. And by the way, their charter actually says there will be so many hotelers and they have a KU rep or 2 KU reps, very different charter. But it's the amount of time that with city staff where you have city commission, Parks and Rec Advisory Board, LCAC, sometimes DLI boards, Explore Lawrence board, Sister Cities board. And so you're looking at, there's only so much of me.
Yeah.
And then you throw in other things like winter emergency shelters and other things. So it's definitely touching staff quite a bit. Definitely touching the public. I think you're on a Brockville tax board and this commission and in multiple things and looking at your time too between that. And some of it goes to what you just said is volunteerism in the community when you have people serving on multiple boards or commissions.
Which is also something I was curious about, how many people who are serving on a city board or commission are on at least one other. I don't know, out of the other membership of this board, I don't know if anybody else is also serving elsewhere, but I wouldn't be surprised given how engaged our group is. I don't know if either of you are serving on other.
No, not for the city.
I know Denise was because of TGT.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure if anybody else was serving on too.
I'm on national boards.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Special Alcohol Funding Advisory Board only meets once a quarter, so that one's not
Okay, not too taxing.
yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah, but well, I think knowing the range of like what we can do as far as recruitment or getting the word out about available seats is like always a good first step. And then maybe coming up with our own little wish lists. And I've definitely let people know in the past, but I think it's always worth keeping in mind, because I do think, I mean, being down 2 people isn't catastrophic, but I do think that's just knowing how difficult it is for folks to find time in their life for this sort of commitment. I do worry that. I feel like that's probably what I worry about more than most things. Maybe not more than anything, but I do think that if we get to a point where we have both membership dropping and then also attendance being hard to maintain, just our ability to actually pass stuff and get things done gets compromised. So,
can I make two comments or suggestions here? I think before I forget, I better jot it down. Maybe there was something with my email that I didn't get it, but I think it might be helpful maybe to have a little bit extra reminder or like a reminder before, because just to get it on people's radar and get it in front of people, that would be helpful to get, like, as you were alluding to, Daniel, like get our attendance a little bit better at the meetings. And then also just kind of jotting down some notes about representation. So I just wrote down a few different categories of representation, like arts related business, like for-profit, nonprofits, higher education, maybe public schools, and then artists. I mean, I don't think we have any are full-time. I know some people are part-time artists, but we don't have a full-time artist on this board at all, which seems like a great opportunity for for us to pursue that. And we don't have a arts-related business represented either. So I think those 2 areas would be somewhere we should maybe try to focus some attention.
And I totally think when we were talking earlier about some of the school representation, the idea of getting someone from a high school, like not a high schooler, but somebody who's working with youth is also something that's like baseline. So that is a great way to have a window into that world, even not necessarily having an actual high schooler, but being able to keep our activity kind of in that.
And I used to be that. I did change jobs recently, but I mean, I'm still kind of got my connections there. But I think that would be another good option too.
To try and get a current active high school arts teacher would be really great.
So our lovely sculptor who's making the awards for the Phoenix Awards this year, Tony Brew, she's really a wonderful person. I met her and just talked with her that next day, and she does it for the love of it. She's really, really good. She sends things. She said, she sent pieces to all 50 states, and she works another job. But her kids, I'm pretty sure, are in college now.
One's in grad school and the others are already out of school, I think.
And she seems really dialed in to what's going on here. I have no idea if she'd be interested in this. I didn't ask at all, but she definitely seems like the right kind of input, I think, perhaps.
She would definitely be a good person to reach out to. Yeah.
And she can speak to the sculpting element as well, because we do have, fine arts and sculpture is a huge part of what we do as well. So,
Well, I could talk about great people who are in our community all day, but I do feel like we've done a good job of sort of opening up some ideas about who we think from the community we'd like to see on the board. We mentioned higher education. We mentioned some folks from KU. Obviously having someone from Haskell again would be great. That's something I feel like it's been lacking since
we had Joshua. Till a year ago.
Yeah, after Josh left, I've wanted to sort of rebuild that connection a little bit.
I think that's a great idea too.
I've been lucky enough to run into Josh multiple times since he left. But I do think so. I think we've done some like good brainstorming, and I bet each of us will. I'm going to make my own personal wish list, and I'm definitely going to annoy some more people. And I think we'll be able to get those 2 seats filled. But I do think on top of the pressing issue, a somewhat pressing issue of just trying to get these 2 specific seats filled, I think there's a lot of bigger questions about how seats are filled in general and how the information is put out to the community, which I think we can continue to think about and work on.
Just curious, Daniel, are you going to talk to the mayor? Maybe give her some of your thoughts on what the commission's looking for. I'm sure she's very proactive, so I have a feeling she's already thinking about some of this. But
sure, yeah,
your feedback would be phenomenal.
Yeah, and we've definitely talked about doing some direct engagement with commissioners, and yeah, I might reach out to Mayor Larson and see if I'm sure that a lot of what we're bringing up is stuff that's already on her mind, but I'd be happy to chat with her about it. And, just to make it more concrete. You brought up sculpture a little bit. I thought maybe we could pivot and talk a little bit. Again, we can't necessarily approve anything, but I did think it'd be nice to touch on the outdoor sculpture exhibition stuff, because I know I've personally reviewed the submissions there, and I was very happy to see that we ended up with quite a few submissions. I know last time around, I think in total we only had, I want to say 3 or 5 submissions. What do you know what it was off the top of your head? I think
looking through my notes from December, we had 7 for
the last time around.
Yeah.
So this time we have 14.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
I know.
Increase.
Yep.
And it is not going to be easy to pick.
They're really good
among them. That process will happen. I think it's reasonable for the outdoor sculpture exhibition subcommittee to try and get together between now and maybe the February 8th meeting. It's kind of with Denise stepping away, that group is now myself and M. So it's 3 of us, and we just need to look over those 14 applications. It's gonna be, I don't know, because you send them to me, but you send them to subcommittee members, have you?
No.
So heads up, they're all great, and it's going to be very difficult to.
Wasn't she
was
Jill?
I don't have her listed. I have her on the grant. I have her on the other 2.
Yeah. I don't see her in public arts.
Yes, I have that wrong.
Were we having a meeting? I got a thing about,
Yeah.
and I put spots in, but.
Yeah, I sent a meeting trying to an invitation or trying to figure out when we could meet.
Yeah.
To you and Tim and Denise, and Tim was not available at any of the times, and that's when Denise told me that talked to me about some of the health issues she was having.
So it never happened. I didn't.
No, it did. No, you didn't miss it. No, you were the.
If it would have been set, if it would have been picked from those times, I would have got a no.
I would have let you know that. Okay. Yeah, it was specifically scheduled. So we do still need to schedule that, and maybe in the next 2.5 weeks before the February 8th meeting, you, Tim, and I can meet over Zoom or whatever, and discuss, do sort of a scoring rubric for the applicants.
Which I'm sure I have. And I can
the scoring rubric.
Yeah. Because I have it for Phoenix and community arts grants. I'm sure I have.
The first step will simply be sending you 14 of the applications.
Yeah.
You can look through. They all have written sections as well as pictures.
Okay.
So
I just downloaded like what the form sends me. Did that work for you?
It did, yeah.
Okay, because they have all the links, and I saved everything to my file, and so I was like, "This is going to be a huge email with 14 of them," but it sent through 5.
Yeah, it worked out.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I'll just do.
So that'll be like not necessarily immediately after this meeting, but the next step for that will be you'll receive an email with all of those applicants.
Great.
But it is nice that we got 4 applicants because
That's great.
Yeah, I have some work cut out for you there. They're really, really cool.
One of those careful what you wish for things, because last time around we were like a little bit surprised at how little interest we got, and so obviously we're excited, but yeah, means we might actually have to say some people. But they're all great. So yeah, we'll do that and hopefully be able to meet. And those meetings don't necessarily have to be super long. So hopefully we can get one of those subcommittee meetings in before the February 8th meeting. Would be nice. Because if the subcommittee has a recommendation on how to proceed with that, and we come to the February 8th meeting and give that recommendation, folks will have an opportunity to ask questions or whatever. But from there, we can probably just move forward. So.
Yeah. And I'm looking for my timeline here, but I'm pretty sure that lines up with how we. Yeah. It's January through March is that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. We're still on track. So the only other things, I don't know if either of you or if Mary online has any questions about the outdoor sculpture exhibition process and how that's going. I mean, that's really just the next step will be reading through all of those. And then as far as the other subcommittees, I mean, we could touch on those, but I think that the Phoenix Award Committee has already met. I think the grant subcommittee is not one that we've talked about recently.
Yeah, I think in December, Marlo spoke about just, be on the lookout for grants and opportunities and stuff. Definitely keeping the grants as another forefront of that subcommittee as well. But I don't think you guys have met. Yeah. So
does anybody have any other questions about subcommittees? We don't have to linger on it too long. I do think the goal of having.
I think in terms of Phoenix Awards, we still need to clarify some dates for that.
Yes.
And particularly with regard to the award ceremony itself, we need to set a date because I'm trying to finalize calendars here at the theater before I retire, and dates are filling up. So I would like us to look at the possibility maybe of doing the awards ceremony if you still want to do it. The best date to do it here would be on Sunday, October the 15th.
Okay.
So I'm just throwing that out, and we'll talk to the committee, but we'd have to back up the other dates in accordance with that.
Yeah, I think that time frame works well, and we can touch base on our February meeting on the 8th to see if that works for everyone.
Okay.
I do want to have out these nomination instructions that would include the deadline for submission for nominations. And if you guys are okay with waiting until the February meeting to lock those down and then approve that's fine with me. Because I think you, Mary, are the only person from the Phoenix committee.
Let's see.
Yeah,
Dina too. Yeah.
I think we want to have the deadline early enough that we can adapt the awards if we need to or want to. Some years they put people's names or the name of the award on the award. So we don't want to wait till the last minute.
Right.
So
I think we had talked about potentially the summer sometime, but that's just
I
what
think so. I think we were talking about June.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if it's okay with you, if we can just clarify that in February, that'd be great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's fine.
Thank you.
Yep.
So our loose agenda, I've gone bounced around a little bit. We do have a couple of things that are listed on here, and I was curious if staff had any specific things that they want to discuss with any of these without having a larger group, and a quorum kind of limits what we can do. But I did want to point out there's the reviewing priorities, the 2022, 2023. That's sort of a brainstorming activity. We with maybe sticky notes and markers. I don't know if we need to do that in full, but I do think that it is something we could just talk about briefly as far as brainstorming a little bit what we feel like the priorities are. I do also wonder on here, there's reviewing the mission and vision and talking about the city's strategic plan. And I kind of wonder if we could maybe lump that all together, our priorities and what we see as, being our goals for the year. I think that can overlap somewhat with the, mission, vision, and the strategic plan. Because I think in a lot of ways, the goals we have and the goals the city have are going to be kind of be the same. So I am curious if there's anything really, I guess for me, what I'm curious to hear out of the folks that are here, is there any way in which the Cultural Arts Commission is currently functioning, a way we go about business, or the goals we have that you feel like could be recalibrated, or anything that you think would any changes you think we could make that would make either our processes easier or the goals we have more meaningful to you? And it's okay if there's not, or if you don't have a short, brilliant answer to that long, complicated question.
If you want to walk through the strategic plan, I can add.
Absolutely.
As you go through that, pull up I think at the top.
I'm just gonna go.
Okay. You click on the book. I can give a quick review of what it is and the key performance progress indicators. So basically, it started in 2019. The city strategic plan, how it was developed, it was a guide to the city on what we'll do for the next 3 to 5 years and how we're going to meet the needs of the community. One of the main takeaways is that it's a community plan. This plan began in 19th direction of the city commission to staff to create a strategic plan that reflects the community's perception of the city today, as well as the hopes for the future. In the simplest of terms, the plan can be summed up as why we do what we do, what it will take for us to achieve the future we have described, and how we accomplish our work with commitment. Community engagement has been a core component of the strategic planning process. In all, more than 3,000 community members contributed the valuable personal time to collaborate in the process and make sure we heard from all of them. The first series of engagement opportunities consisted of a community meeting, facilitated discussions with community groups, tabling events at local businesses and events, facilitated discussions with government stakeholders and employee groups, and online feedback forum. The second series of engagements began during the COVID-19 pandemic, included a series of check-in meetings via Zoom, as well as other online feedback forums. The priorities and findings by the second series of engagements included affordable housing and homelessness are interrelated. Lawrence economy needs to be strengthened. Racial equity should be addressed. The action items that were identified that they believe the city should address: expand multimodal transit, promote economic development strategies to strengthen the Lawrence economy, provide services to prevent homelessness and support those that are currently experiencing homelessness, and address the city's funding shortfalls. The plan consisted of 5 outcomes and 6 commitments. The outcomes represent what our city is in the business of doing, and the commitments are how we do our work. Commitments are essential to ensure we are following through on the strategic plan in the right way with excellence. Both outcomes and commitments have strategies, progress measures, and activities to help guide us in making Lawrence a better place through the strategic plan. The 5 outcome areas, you can see them up there. Unmistakable identity. Lawrence is a welcoming community synonymous with arts, diverse culture, fun, and a quintessential downtown. City parks and community events contribute to the vibrancy experienced by all people in Lawrence. Strong, welcoming neighborhoods. All people in Lawrence live in a safe, functional, and aesthetically unique neighborhoods that provide opportunities to lead healthy lifestyles with access to safe and affordable housing and essential services that help them thrive. Safe and secure community, which is represented by the fire department and police department. Lawrence is a community where all people feel safe and secure and have access to trusted public and community-based resources. Prosperity and economic security. Brett Como, the city, is the champion for this one. The city of Lawrence fosters an environment that provides all people and business opportunities for economic security, and intentionally acknowledges, removes, and prevents barriers created by systemic and institutional injustice. Our community succeeds because of collective prosperity and a vibrant, sustainable local economy. Connected City, this is the municipal services organization. Melissa Sieben is a champion. The city of Lawrence has well-maintained and functional and efficient infrastructure, facilities, and other assets. Connectivity supports accessible, sustainable methods for safely moving people and information throughout the community and the region. Investments in these assets reflect the city's commitment to contribute to the well-being of all people. Now for the commitment areas. Community engagement. Porter's a champion for this one. Listen, share, and engage with our community to drive action and build trust in city government. Effective and efficient processes. This is our IT director. Intentional and consistent delivery of city services. Equity and inclusion, Dr. Faris Muhammad. Fair and impartial delivery of services so that no group is disadvantaged or burdened, along with having inclusive representation and participation by all. Sound fiscal stewardship, Jeremy Wilmoth, the finance director. Efficient use and sustainable management of resources that align with community priorities. Engaged and empowered teams, our human resources directors champion, Megan Dodge. People throughout the organization are trusted, supported, and cared for as we build the community. Last but not least, environmental sustainability. Deep respect for our place and relationship with the planet and environment, and that's Kathy Richardson. And then at the very beginning, like we talked about, the journey, we start with mission, vision, and goals, with the strategic plan fulfilled. So if you can go down, we'll just walk through unmistakable identity and take a look at the metrics page if you can get there. You're in the book.
It's measuring right here.
No, the one that's got the key performance indicators. So for unmistakable identity, we have 14.
Yeah, these are on here.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to show the ones where we track our scorecard. You might go back. And no, well, go down and see if it's below that, but I don't think you're on the right page.
Outcome 1, 2, safe, secure, connected city.
No, it's the one we review when we do our outcome meetings. And go down from there. That might be it. That's the planning process.
What I had up was the overview.
Let's see, I can pull it up on my phone. I think you're there. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the first one, unmistakable identity, key performance indicator 1%. Of residents who are satisfied, very satisfied with Parks and Recreation system. Our metric was 84% back in 2020. That's where we were as a community based on the ETC survey. It's a citywide survey and a statistically relevant or sound. It goes out to 800 people. In 2022, we did an oversampling to make sure that we were sampling a diverse community and got more of the minority groups into that one. And in 2022, it was 81%. National average, I believe, is in the 50s. The Kansas City metro areas are in the 70s, so we excel in that metric. 2% of residents who are satisfied, very satisfied with the amount of arts, diverse culture, and events. Our target was 60%, and we came in at 77. This is the first year we used that, and so we have a subgroup of unmistakable identity that's been looking at that, with included Porter first, or the equity and inclusion, and Steve Novak was on the committee. And I can't remember, Mary, were you on this one or not?
She's had to step away.
She might have been on this too, on the sub task force. So the question is, and I think what the sub task force said was, we're going to let this metric ride. We'll do another survey to see how that is before we go, okay, the target was too high, too low. Should the target be higher? How are we doing what we're doing? Do we need to put more resources there? We'll scroll down. This one's interesting. Stephen's been helping me, and I'm sure he's pulling his hair out like mine is on how do you count a visitor to number of people have visited a city park trail, rec facility, rec program, Theater Lawrence, Watkins Museum, Lawrence Arts Center, Explore Lawrence Tourism Center, or the Lawrence Public Library. So everybody has metrics. The Arts Center does a great job of counting. Theater Lawrence does. Watkins Parks and Rec, we do use key fobs, but we always have this overlap of, for example, somebody comes in and uses our program, but they like the key fob in. Don't need to, so are we double counting? But as long as we're consistently counting the same way, we would expect this metric to go up coming out of COVID, which I think it is, but what is the target? UI4 is one that the subtask force is still working on. Percent of residents who have attended an event in the past year. So Explore Lawrence uses Datify, but they think there's been some change in their service agreement, so it's not as good of a tracking mechanism. It used to be able to say, hey, we got this event coming to the Lawrence football game. We know we packed the stadium, but Datify says only 14,000 people attended. And she's going, well, that's not right, because we know it was a full stadium. So they're looking at different ways of doing that. The same with the park. How do you count the number of people that attended Busker Fest or went to South Park or the band concerts in the evening? The ETC survey does have some questions over that. One of the key components is the residents who attended, which is different than if you see all these cars driving in from Kansas City to come to the event downtown, whether it be Belgian waffle race or something. Go down. Below each one of these, you'll see strategy. Stephen, did you have anything? Or?
No.
Okay. UI 5% of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC residents rating the community as welcoming. That's an ETC question that they're still working on. And 6% of residents who believe their culture is celebrated in the community through festivals, parades, events, etc. So in the strategies, we talk about how we collaborate and engage with initiatives to ensure everybody feels like they're in a community where they feel welcome and it's meeting this. Are we providing accessible, diverse, and inclusive parks and rec programs, amenities for all ages is a great example. And are we serving the underserved communities? So percent of scholarships that is met for recreation programs. That's based on, in Parks and Rec, we have the We Folk Scholarship for programs. The Lawrence Arts Center has theirs, which I think he's trying to collect that data. And last year when I worked with Margaret and we looked at the data, I learned a lot more about your program and very satisfied with what you do and how you do it. But that rolls in here since the city funds $30,000 to the LAC scholarship program. And then this year in scholarships, we also added an all folks scholarship program for all ages or 18 and older. So that it's not just, somebody turned 18, now they're no longer eligible for a scholarship. And I think the Arts Center has been it's all ages too. And then, or do you recall? I think it is. Mm-hmm. So I think that's pretty cool. UI 8 is an interesting one. Bigger cities, other cities, net city cost per visitor to attend an event. A lot of cities, they build, they create, they host an event. So there's a lot of city dollars that go into it. Our community uses a lot of grassroots event organizers is a good way of putting it. But is there still a city cost? There's police, there's fire, there's things we co-sponsor, city co-sponsor, St. Patty's Day Parade, the Veterans Parade, the Santa Rescue, Juneteenth. Lately, we've been doing the fireworks celebrations in July. So there's things we're still doing. And I think in the future, this metric, we will get some more data on. But the system, I like the way this works, so we host Buster Fest in Lawrence, and there's a indirect cost to the city, obviously, to support that, but that the organizers take the risk. And that was part of the goal of the transient guest tax, was to award a higher rate the first year, and then hopefully over time that rate goes down because they're so successful and they want to have their events in Lawrence. The cost recovery is unique. Our cost recovery is based on a cost recovery philosophy of subsidy to the community. So we say it's a community value that every child should know how to swim. That's something that the community subsidizes 75% of a swim lesson. You start to get to a higher level of individual competitiveness. You're a competitive sports team, or a golfer, which is more individualized, then you're going to have less subsidy. And in some cases, you may be paying 100% or more. Sound fiscal stewardship. 10%. Okay, downtown retail sales in downtown Lawrence. So as an outcome area, we want all of the city of Lawrence to survive as a tax base. And we don't want to just say, hey, 41% of our tax base comes from the south end of Iowa Street, which I haven't seen the new numbers, but it's true. It's the box stores. People come to downtown Lawrence for the uniqueness and our cool downtown. So we want to see the tax rate or the tax dollars coming in higher there, but I also want to see it coming in at 6 in Wakarusa and 15th in Wakarusa and all of our other major areas around Lawrence. So PDS, I'm not sure when we're going to get the new information on that, but I'm looking forward to seeing that.
And is that 10% that goal for the retail sales downtown? Is that 10% increase correlating? Is that what it is, or what is that 10%?
That is our target. That's where we'd like to be. It's been higher. It's been about 9.4, and actually, or it's been in the 9s. I want to say 6th Street and Wakarusa. I think they're about 12.5%. So we've got these little centers around Lawrence, and it's how do we get more events out there? So we got Johnny's West and Salty Iguana and 6 Mile Chop House and Spin Pizza. It would be cool, and they do some of their own events, but we got a lot of parking lots out there in space. Can we do events out there? And it's not just all the events have to be downtown Lawrence. How do we spread that around? To that point too, and I like Northwest Arkansas. Why can't we have more arts on our trails, like Crystal Bridges and things like that? So long-term goal, and that's where we'd like to go. Employee engagement, this last survey was a little different. So this was the metric from 2020 and the metric from 2022. The data just didn't align up. That's internal to the city. Acres of green space, I think the average is about 0.02. Lawrence, we're at 0.4, so we went up just a little bit. The 0.045 is a goal. We leased the core property, 3,000 acres, I believe, or something like that, by Clinton Lake below the dam for the golf course, the sports complex, the Squatennial Point, all that space. So that adds to our acreage. And then actually going even outside of Douglas County, we go into Leavenworth County with the Corps of Engineers ground along the river corridor. So we have a very high rate. Working with the county, we want to expand our open spaces. My goal is to go out 2 miles around Lawrence. Now, maybe 20 to 30 years before we go 2 miles south of the city limit, south of Lawrence. But at some point, we'll jump to Wakarusa, and we're going to need open space out there. A number of events that celebrate and enhance environmental sustainability. I think we were way low on that. We're still reviewing the numbers. Stephen has brought up some good points, and so we're still working on it. Does Prairie Park Nature Center environmental education, what counts as that? Is it aimed for this? We do Earth Day events. We do work with Friends of the Call and River Cleanup on Earth Day. The Page Day Parade, we gave out tree saplings, 500 trees within the first few blocks of the parade. It's like, wow. So what do we measure here? And the next one is more related to that, but a number of trees that are cut down, replanted, and maintained. So a healthy tree canopy, there's a reason Lawrence looks so much greener than when you go to Kansas City metro area, you go to the Lenexa. We intentionally have right-of-way trees, intentionally have green medians and trees. All that infrastructure is value, and it adds to our identity and unmistakable identity of Lawrence when people think of us. So our forestry department has really been intentionally working on improving this too. So we were ahead of, I don't know if you ever followed the Dutch elm disease, and that's been a big thing. And we've mitigated that over the years by being proactive in cutting down some of those trees early, but spread over time. So it's not all these trees died at once and everybody goes, what happened? Anyway, let's go down to prosperity and economic security, which would be the next one. Keep going down. Elite. Oh, okay, go back up and explore Lawrence, and it is another area that we hear also from the arts community as well. We're not just unmistakable identity, we also align with prosperity and economic development. So the transient guest tax with the Community Visitors Bureau, which is Explore Lawrence for us. Well, we got this component, but we also have this component of trying to get overnight stays in Lawrence. So let's look through some of their data. So when we fund as a city these organizations, we also look at how is our funding helping meet the strategic plan in these outcome areas. And so at Downtown Lawrence Inc. says, hey, we're doing this, or Watkins Museum, we can do more of this, and this is going to help raise these indicators, and that's something we want to do. Then yes, can we move more transient guest tax dollars down? So as a commission, as you look at, if you say we want to be more into this outcome area, then start looking at the KPIs and how are you helping move these KPIs?
Yeah, I think this PES3 one is definitely a big one as far as, I mean, obviously there isn't data yet for it, but the idea of employment growth for like creative, some of those creative jobs, I feel like is definitely something where we could see there's a lot of jobs that are integrate with the arts in some way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, for me, I feel like a lot of the economic stability ones, especially the ones just about like people, percent of people who enjoy working in Lawrence. I think that, enjoying living in Lawrence, working in Lawrence, doing anything in Lawrence is really impacted by the prevalence of the arts. So I think some quality of life stuff is definitely in there. And I do think that we could look at arts jobs as a big opportunity. But unmistakable identity is definitely our bread and butter. I mean, a lot of those progress indicators are very clearly aligned with the experiences and the outcomes that people have around the arts. So, but I am curious if anybody else has any ideas, or at least I think looking over the progress indicators, for me, it there's a lot of like ideas that it generates, especially looking at things around like some of the commitments with like environmental stability or sustainability. Those aren't things I necessarily think about all the time when I think about, arts events and in the community, but there could easily be overlap there. And it could be not something we need to focus on necessarily, but something in the back of our head or mind of, if there is an opportunity to kind of create more overlap there, I think that could be beneficial.
Yeah. And come up with strategies to move any of those. How can arts and culture move some of those? So in some of the meetings, what we do is I look at how can we collaborate, and maybe single day events, but we can get 2 or 3 of those in a row. Would somebody say, well, let's just go to Lawrence for the weekend. We'll stay there. We'll go to Third Lawrence on Saturday. There's a Friday night event, and then there's a Sunday event. And so it's, how do we get people to travel here, which is, and it, to your point too, it's the residents here that want to say, hey, my culture is celebrated in Lawrence, Kansas. Juneteenth is a great example of that, I think. They've done parades 2 years. I'm looking forward to working with them again this year. And one of the events that's pretty cool is think about the zombie walk. Where else is there a zombie walk? And for being organic, that starts in South Park and goes Abe and Jake. So
I personally have no idea what the legacy or like of that event is, like how specifically that started. But you are right that we are very, very lucky to have a lot of grassroots stuff that somebody just starts doing something and it takes off and becomes established.
The Mardi Gras parade started organically, but there's lots of stuff.
So a lot of stuff to think about. Obviously, this meeting was originally slated for 2 hours. We're at about an hour and a half with a smaller group and no quorum. There's no reason we have to go all the way till 5 if folks want some of their weekend back. But I do think it's a good opportunity for anybody here to voice any sort of like aspirations they have about new things that the board can tackle, or new ways the board can function. I think getting our membership back up to 10 and having some, I think we've been doing a lot of work trying to get things a little more structured to make sure all the subcommittees are firing on all cylinders. I will say that for me, being a part of the committee, one of the things that we've talked about in our first meeting there was just the opportunity for all of the city's boards and commissions to have a little bit more cross-pollination, so that each board is a little bit more aware of what some other boards are doing. And with that overall board and committee review process, I think there's very likely going to be some things that are going to change a little bit. Probably for all of the boards and committees. I'm sure some boards and committees will see more drastic changes than others. But I think there is always an opportunity for us to sort of see where the gaps are overall. I think for us, our role in the strategic plan is a little more obvious than some of the others. We're in a silo along with some other groups, but we're really the only folks who are focusing on arts and cultures. I mean, that it ties into everything with unmistakable identity, but we have a pretty good niche for ourselves. But I do think that we could potentially have more involvement. I know the sign code has come up many times at our meetings as something that is sometimes relevant to what we do, and I think that came up at the committee meeting as something. An interesting overlap. So I think looking at all the boards and committees and how there is interesting overlap between them, I think it would be great to someday down the road, maybe even in the, not necessarily the short term, but the middle term, have a little bit more communication and understanding of what other boards are doing. Just as far as when occasionally what they're doing does overlap with what we're doing, and ways that we can collaborate and have some of those overlaps accentuated. I mean, there's the sustainability board. And if they want to do an event, maybe, that there is opportunity for partnership between organizations, but also these different groups. So.
You mentioned the sign code. So that's something that Guardians of Grover's Barn. So we did the kiosks up there and partnered with Watkins on that and that group. But there's also along the Peterson Road bike path, there's multiple locations, Underground Railroad historic sites. And so they wanted to do kiosks around that. And then you got the Lynn Zollner, which is, I believe that there's a signboard and they've got a piece of that. But the historic piece of that component is pretty cool. And that one's that kind of falls off the side, and where I can with historic signs for neighborhoods that's in a park, I've been taking that on and then trying to standardize the signage. And then from the downtown Lawrence group, and looking at when we did the visit to Northwest Arkansas, our historic signs in downtown Lawrence are just blah, my opinion. And you look at some communities that have really done some neat things with the signage. And I think that is the artistic piece of what can also set our community out and how we get that information out. Hey, if you go 2 blocks over, there's this other historic site. Lake Yarda at 8th and Delaware is a great example that not only getting from the loop out there to downtown or to the museum, but how do you get from downtown to go with? You just go a few blocks over, you'll be into the East Lawrence area of LBC and the art centers and some other things. So talking to East Lawrence, I think they'd just stay linear, just focus on mass. So, but there is a really cool development that we are 3D as a city and trying to get people to realize that Lawrence is not just Mass Street. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like public art and history and also getting people to engage with multiple parts of the community, all 3 of those can be accomplished in like the same basic way or in ways that reinforce one another. So I don't have too much else to say. I think that I'm always open to ideas. If folks have ideas and want to shoot them to me, and let me know if there's anything about the way this is, obviously a more unconventional meeting, the way our normal meetings go. If there's anything about the structure or whatever, feel free to let me know. We don't have, there's a section on our little agenda about planning for sort of like brainstorming dates and times for meetings. I think.
Yeah. I mean, if we don't like 7:30, I mean, it does feel like a little bit of a later meeting for some of you. I mean, it is for me.
How much wiggle room is there on that as far as?
On Wednesday, not so much. We have sustainability meets right before us. And I mean, any time or suggestion, I'm going to have to go back and check to make sure that we, can use the room. But Parks and Rec has a conference room and that is set up to do this kind of thing too. So, I mean, if this is something that the commission would like to change, we certainly can.
So that's good to be aware of. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with Wednesdays, 7:30. But it is good to know that we're not beholden to that. We can change things around, and maybe with discussions of trying to like bring in different people, maybe that works really well for everyone who's on the commission, but is prohibitive for other folks who we want to see represented. So something to keep in mind. Our next meeting.
I would suggest though that if we do decide to make a change, that we make the change well in advance, because like at least like maybe minimum of 6 months, because like Mary was saying earlier, she's planning out to like October. Right. So to switch it with just like a couple of months notice is probably not going to work for a lot of people. Yeah. So I'll just speak for myself, but I think maybe 6 months or something, at least till the end of at least at a good sort of breaking point, like maybe summer or at the appointment of new commissioners, or I think a lot of us were appointed in January or
that
whatever
thing looked like mid-year, okay. July-ish.
Maybe most people were.
No, I think January is the transition. Could I ask that we get a little more timely reminders on the meetings? I kind of think maybe that's why we didn't have better attendance this afternoon.
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah, I think that's good feedback. The only other thing on here, I mean, as far as our next meeting, it will be February 8th at the normal time, normal place. I think we'll try and get the outdoor sculpture exhibition crew together before then. So we do, as always, have a section on our agenda for sharing of events that you've attended or that you're going to attend. If anybody feels like it, throw anything out. I personally don't. So,
Have anything either.
so the only other thing on the agenda is actually adjourning. Ordinarily there'd be a vote to adjourn, but there's no voting today, or there's not necessarily, there's no rules today. With that, I think that, we didn't discuss all the things that we were originally going to touch on, but it's nice to have some just more open, fluid conversations about stuff. So, with that, unless any staff have anything else want to chime in, I'll just thank all of the staff, especially Kurt, who's over there. I know doing all the tech stuff, and then of course, commissioners for volunteering your time on a kind of nice Sunday afternoon. And feel free to email me if you have any questions or concerns. Put together your wish lists for who you want to see represented on this board. Maybe we can get some leads on new members before February 8th. And if not, or regardless, I guess I'll see y'all then. Oh, thanks for joining us virtually, Mary. It's always nice having your input. So we'll see y'all in 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Feels less official when there's no vote.
There's no vote, right? Bye, Mary.
Bye. Thank you all.